Chapter 45. Bus. The airport was marked out with yellow lanes and a strict 20-mile-per-hour limit. Sasha sat at the wheel of the bus, Bruce on the long bench behind, and James stood with one hand on a green pole and the other holding out the photocopied directions. "Next left," James said, as they cruised behind the wings of a small airbus. Sasha hadn't got the knack of steering the bus, and was alarmed to find himself heading towards a tight gap beneath a terminal walkway. He slowed to a crawl and looked worried as the roof cleared a height restriction sign by centimetres. They emerged from the short tunnel into bright sunlight blanketing the cargo terminal. Sasha followed the yellow path in front of 4 parked jets painted in the livery of an international courier company, and then swung out across open tarmac, heading for a solitary 737 cargo plane. 2 men were unloading the plane using an automated conveyor, with aluminium freight cubes rolling down a belt onto the back of a flatbed truck. As the bus closed in, James recognised the hulking outlines of the Kruger brothers. "You're late," Tim Kruger shouted, switching off the conveyor as James and Bruce stepped down from the bus. He leaned in and looked at Sasha, who'd stayed behind the wheel. "The cargo men are unconscious in the terminal, and the cage is set to blow." James and Bruce were handed rubber gas masks as Tony pulled a remote detonator out of his pocket. "Fingers in your ears," he said, giving the boys less than 2 seconds to comply before he pressed the button. A white flash burst from the open door of the fuselage 10 metres above them. The sound echoed across the tarmac and made the plane roll back half a metre on its giant tyres. As smoke billowed from the doorway, the Kruger brothers grabbed a set of access steps and wheeled them towards it. Tim looked towards James and Bruce. "You'll see 8 bricks inside the cage. Grab them and throw them down the steps." Sasha claimed that James and Bruce were doing this part of the operation because they were young and fast, but as he raced up the steps, James couldn't help feeling that it was because no other bugger wanted to do it. A lot of the smoke had cleared by the time the boys reached the doorway. Nothing seemed to have caught fire, but it was still tough to see. James peered into the cockpit and saw that the blast had destroyed most of the instrumentation and set off enough warning alarms to make it sound like an amusement park. With their gas masks filtering the smoke, Bruce stepped the other way and grabbed a reinforced door. The Krugers were explosives experts, and the blast had made neat holes in the gate of the high-security cargo area, commonly known as the cage. Bruce stepped into a dark space less than 3 metres deep and flipped on the lamp fitted to his mask. The blast had buckled the aluminium shelves at the back of the cage, causing its contents to spill into a pile on the floor. He swept aside a massive envelopes and small boxes that probably contained precious stones or jewellery and bent at the knees to grab the first brick. 30 centimetres wide, 20 deep and 20 high, each plastic-wrapped brick contained $260,000 belonging to the United States government. The shipment had left America for Amsterdam the night before and was bound for Iraq, where the money would be used to pay the security forces. Bruce passed the brick out of the door to James, who backed up to the outer door before hurling it down the staircase into the arms of Tony Kruger. It took less than 40 seconds to extract $2 million vacuum-packed dollars and load them onto the bus. As the boys ran down the steps, they spotted an airport fire engine racing towards the scene. It could only be a matter of seconds before the airport police were on their backs too. James jumped onto the bus behind Bruce and the Kruger brothers, and Sasha floored the accelerator without bothering to shut the doors. Their exit was on the opposite side of the airport. But whilst Sasha wanted a quick getaway, he discovered that the hydraulic brakes locked on every time he reached 25 miles an hour. "There's a bloody speed limiter!" Sasha yelled as he turned around the nose of the plane and began heading back towards the passenger end of the terminal. Tim Kruger watched in shock as the speed limiter locked on for the third time. "Makes sense," James said quietly as he sat on a padded bench next to Bruce. "You wouldn't want your minimum wage airport bus driver putting his foot down and careering into a £50 million jet." 20 miles an hour felt agonizingly slow as they drove along the path in front of the terminal, passing the shadowy outlines of a dozen passenger jets. But there was still no sign of airport police as Tim Kruger radioed through to the rest of the team. "We're passing Gate 3 and should be at the exit in just over a minute." "Roger that," Savas answered. "I'm heading in." "There's the cops!" Bruce yelled as he looked behind and saw 2 airport police cars roaring across the tarmac with their sirens blazing. They were closing fast as Sasha took a final slow turn around the end of the passenger terminal. The vehicle access point where fuel tankers and catering trucks entered the airport was directly ahead of them, complete with heavy barriers and a security booth with an armed guard inside. James only glimpsed it before he saw the truck with the battering ram welded to the front, barreling towards the gate at more than 50 miles an hour. The huge ram tore into the security booth, ripping the entire structure out of the ground. As the truck ploughed on, it hit a curb so fast that the front wheels flew off the ground. It shattered the exit barriers and closed on the side of the terminal building. "He's ballsed it up!" Tony Kruger gasped. Savas was supposed to brake hard and turn once he was through the gates, but your brakes don't work when your wheels are off the ground. A wall of sparks exploded around the front edge of the battering ram as the truck touched down, throwing the helmeted Savas across the cab. The truck smashed into the terminal building, tearing a massive hole and exposing ventilation shafts and a service corridor. "Jesus," Bruce gasped as dust billowed and masonry chinked to the ground. "That must have knocked him out." Sasha stopped the bus and the 2 black Mercedes vans roared through the tangle of concrete and wire where the security barriers had been. James and Bruce grabbed a brick of money and ran towards them. At the same time, Savas fought to open his stricken truck, but the collision had buckled the door and he was forced to climb through the window. The 2 airport police cars had stopped 50 meters behind the bus, and the Kruger brothers ripped out machine guns and fired warning shots into the air. "Stay back!" Tony warned. Bruce started making a second run with 2 bricks of money. James was about to grab the last one when Sasha pointed him towards the truck. "Go help Savas! He's stuck!" Savas was losing his struggle to get out of the truck. A jet of water sprayed out of the rubble inside the terminal as James jumped onto the steps leading up to the cab. He grabbed Savas by his overall, but Savas's shoulders were wedged and his breathing was laboured. As James tried to undo the chin strap on Savas's helmet, a blast of automatic gunfire gave him the fright of his life. He slipped off the steps and put his trainer down awkwardly, turning his ankle and collapsing onto his heavily padded behind. James glanced around warily. There was no sign of Bruce or the Kruger brothers, and the gunfire seemed to have come from behind the remains of the security booth. The officer inside had dived out before it was destroyed, and now used the debris as cover as she shot at the wheels of the black vans less than 10 meters from her position. The getaway drivers had no option but to reverse through the mangled gates at speed. As James stood up, it seemed everyone else had made it into the vans, and his only company was the half-conscious Savas. He thought about running for it, but with someone shooting from behind the booth, and the two police cars sure to close in now that the Kruger brothers weren't covering his back, surrender seemed like the only sane option. Then he eyed Sasha lying flat in the doorway of the bus. Michael was a good marksman. He'd practiced extensively with his compact pistol, and the runt who'd stabbed Gabriel was crossing the playground less than 10 meters away. It was an easy shot. Cherubs are taught only to shoot when they're in immediate danger, and the runt didn't even know he was being targeted. But Michael's training was mangled by his love for Gabriel. He wanted the person who'd almost extinguished her life to suffer, and his rage was almost overpowering. Can I get away with it? Probably. Could I live with myself? Definitely. Wouldn't killing him make me just as bad as him? Could I really kill another human being? Much as he hated the runt, Michael was surprised to discover that he didn't have the heart to kill in cold blood. He lowered his aim and thought about shooting the runt up the arse or in the leg. But wherever a bullet enters, you can be dead inside 3 minutes if it hits an artery. A slamming door made Michael look back, and he heard running in the corridor behind him. His first thought was of the two runts who'd been inside the car. But he could hear voices. A near-hysterical woman and an older man trying to calm her down. The cops had given top priority to a call from a primary school. "This is the police. Can you hear me?" Michael took a quick glance back out of the window and saw that the runt had stopped moving. He'd lost Michael and had no idea what to do next. "I can hear," Michael shouted back. "I want you to put your gun down and slide it across to the far side of the room," the cop said calmly. "I need to be able to see your weapon when I open the door." Michael considered bursting out of the triangular door and going after the runt, but firearms teams work in pairs, and the most likely outcome would be a bullet in his own back. Even with body armor and nanotubes, he didn't fancy it. "Quickly!" the cop shouted. "I'm putting the gun down now," Michael shouted back. He clicked on the safety and removed the clip, then threw both against the far wall of the room. One of the cops must have been peering through the door at the back, because he charged in instantly, pointing his handgun at Michael as Alex Ryder and a display of horrible histories clattered to the floor. "Hands on your head! On your head!" Michael did what he was told as another officer stormed into the room. "Get up! Face the window!" While the officer slammed Michael against a bookshelf and locked handcuffs behind his back, the runt spotted a police uniform inside the library and began sprinting towards the school gate. "Okay, mister," the officer said, as he jerked Michael away from the window and shoved him forward so that his colleague could pat him down. "You're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent, but anything that you do say can be taken down and used in evidence against you." "He's wearing full body armor," the other cop said incredulously, as he pulled a hunting knife and a cell phone out of Michael's trouser pocket. "Carrying a firearm? Assault with a deadly weapon? You're looking at 5 years, and you can't be more than 16 years old." "Get out to the car," the first cop growled, as Michael wondered if Gabriel would have wanted him to pull the trigger.